depth into the basics of the stock market. In today's video, we'll be discussing stock value. So in the last video, we reviewed concepts such as indexes and some basics on how stocks work. So if you haven't watched that video yet, there'll be a link attached to this video so you can review those concepts. I'd highly encourage you to watch those before you watch this video. But let's get started. So, after learning what a stock is and how trading occurs in the stock market, you may wonder, why are some stocks better than others? Or more specifically, what determines the values of these stocks? So to understand this more clearly, let's think of this hypothetical scenario. The stats given here are only made up for imaginative purposes, so they're not necessarily real. So we have three cars, the Nissan Juke, the Tesla Model 3, and the Honda Insight. And from these stats displayed here, it looks like the Nissan Juke is probably the worst car out of them all, considering it has not much power and really bad range. But whereas the Tesla, it's slightly better, has more power, also really good range and an 8 out of 10 rating. Whereas the Honda also makes decent power, amazing range or mileage, and it has a much better rating from Car and Driver. So from the stats displayed here, the Honda Insight looks like the better choice to go with, right? It gets better mileage out of the cars, arguably more stylish, and a more well-rounded car in general. But why? Let's say the sales of the Model 3 are better than the Honda. Why is that? This is because people will buy what they see as the most favorable thing among everything else. Say the Tesla sold 3,000 units when it first released, and the Honda only sold 1,000. Due to more people seeing this car on the road, and the good stories they've heard of it due to popular usage, such as good mileage, reliability, cool user interface, the sales of the Model 3 have gone up way more, and let's say double than all these cars combined. Not because it's a better car, just because of the hype. And the hype is basically a buildup of respect or favoritism towards something due to stories of popularity. And the hype and spreaded usage of the Model 3 will make everybody else think, should I get the other two cars if I like it? No, I should get what everybody else says is the best car. And that sort of explains the value of stocks. It's not the real value of companies that determine their stock price most of the time. It's just the most popular story that people believe about those companies. Don't believe me? Let's take another example. This time in real life. For example, Chipotle. As a few years ago, you might remember there was an E. coli outbreak in their chicken, which caused a lot of hatred towards the restaurant brand. As you can see in the graph here, Chipotle stock went down due to that E. coli outbreak from their chicken, and this caused something called mass hysteria, where basically everybody freaks out and panics. What does this mean for consumers of the food and traders in the stock market? Well, consumers of the food definitely found alternative places to eat, probably didn't eat there again, and were most likely angry for the company for providing bad quality food. This led the company's sales to plummet, and therefore stock traders sold their shares while they could. This drove the value of Chipotle stock all the way down, and we can see this when it went from its max of over $700 to under $300 and less, and it remained around that ballpark for almost 2 years. So what we can see here is the power of widely acclaimed negativity towards the company, and that will most likely bring their stock prices down. For another example, we can see Volkswagen during a time of their emissions scandal. So a little bit of context for this story. A few years back, every car company has to go through an emissions process to see how much gas their car emits into the air. If it's too much, then it's deemed as like a harm to the environment, and they need to rework their engines and how exhaust gets released into the environment. So as you can see here, Volkswagen did lie on their emissions test, and that caused a lot of hatred towards the company, and they ended up losing a lot of money due to that, and that drove their stock price down a lot. As you can see, after September 19th, it just went falling and falling, and it lasted for a long time. So you get the point. Stories can work both ways. They can either increase or decrease the stock price. So while it is a possibility that stocks can go up and down based on true stories, They can also change value largely due to hype. These can be made up stories that create hype. Remember that term we talked about with the car scenario? Back in the day when the internet was first created, there was a lot of hype surrounding internet companies, which drove their stock prices to the roof. The companies didn't have to be good, they could have just been startups, but a lot of people invested in it due to hype. As a more recent example, we can take Apple's graph, seen below. In January 2010, so roughly more than 10 years ago, when the revolutionary iPhone debuted in January 29th, we can see the value of the stock significantly rose. And that's an example of a stock rising due to an advancement in the company itself. So this can be like a combination of hype and the fact that Apple has made this new product, or just the fact that they made something that nobody has ever before. But there can also be a gain where there's a buildup of hype towards a stock, as seen in this graph of GameStop. So even more recently, in 2021, a group called Wall Street Bets, a community on Reddit for the stock market, led a lot of people to buy the GameStop stock when its value skyrocketed, and then it went down short after. So why did it go up? Well, when they got so many investors to buy it, the value immediately rose in just a span of a few days, as you can see. But why? So why did it go down? Well, we have to think of a snowballing effect. The snowball represents the stock's value, and it keeps getting bigger as it keeps rolling. But it can get bigger than that, so then it comes crashing down. And then why does it crash? As more and more investors basically enter the market, they think that they can get a profit from that run up, and then inventory becomes scarce, and as a result, prices rise way too quickly to be justified by the underlying value of that company. And this can hurt investors and many others once that crash happens. So that's usually how the value of a stock is determined. It's usually the most popular story or advancement made by a business that drives that share price up or down. There's also other ways of bringing in possible profit. For example, buying an index fund. Index funds are basically where you put all your money into all the stocks of an index that you choose. So say you buy an S&P 500 low-cost index, you're putting all of your money into the companies that belong into that index. So you're like hitching your wagon to the stock market, collecting whatever profits you can. This idea was popularly promoted by Warren Buffett. But that's really how the values of stocks are determined nowadays. Considering the widespread use of social media and news, it's really easy for stories about businesses to get around. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, make sure to subscribe and like for more stock market content. In the next video of the series, I'll be doing a walkthrough of how you can learn to trade stocks at certain ages, and doing a tour of a brokerage and how to buy or sell or analyze stocks. See you next time.